Hi, welcome back to the SAP IP Business Talks. We are back with this format here in close to Munich. It's around noon. I hope that you enjoy now the next 45 minutes wherever you are on the planet. Today I have a guest. It's Bas Albers, and Bas will tell you a little bit about himself and his background. For you, for the moment, it's just important that you make sure that you are live with us. We can see here in the studio your comments, and I'm very happy when you write your comments in the chat of this event, and then I pick that up. And when there are any questions to Bas or to his tool or to his approach, I'm very happy to integrate that here in our live discussion. Yeah, welcome, Bas. Please explain us a little bit. How did you came into this field of IP management?
Well, thank you first of all for having me. I've been in IP management for quite some time. It started when I was a little kid. I was always intrigued by inventions, and then at university there was this course about IP, which I found really interesting. And then after my studies, I studied physics in Holland. I decided I didn't want to go, into science. And then I became a patent attorney trainee. That was a bit too far away from technology and business. So I then ended up in Switzerland in R&D, developing optical sensors, mainly 3D cameras. And while I was working there, my bosses were always talking about patents, and they had some patents, and then I started helping them. And over time, I started doing more and more IP work, IP management work. Until then decided it was okay. I wanted to do just that, just IP management. And then I started working for many smaller companies, also bigger companies, offering them IP management, fractional IP management, one might call it. And in that way, I have seen more than 20 companies in 20 years, roughly. And I noticed that they are having all the same problems with IP management. So I started helping them out. And I noticed that I was always doing the same tasks that could be quite much work to get everything done every year again. And then I decided to develop my own tool, which now is called Patent Cockpit, where I have all my ideas about IP management integrated, so that my work as an IP manager is just more efficient, basically, and more effective.
Okay. Yeah, we talked a lot about that over the last time, and I have here some content which we already created together. So I was very happy that you visited us in Strasbourg at the SAP EPO program for IP law and management, the master program. You gave a dinner speech there here in this oldest restaurant in Strasbourg, which is rich of very old buildings. And so for the ones who are interested in that, we talked about IP portfolios, we talked about IP, and especially under the perspective of SMEs. And then you provided us also with a full duplex page on that, on IP strategies for SMEs. And here is for the audience. So we have a different aspects of IP strategies for SMEs, especially how to create a clear view on the portfolio, how to make meaningful, reasonable strategies, and how to implement such strategies. And for the ones who like to listen more and not to read, we have also created already a full episode on the IP management voice podcast. So that leads me to our first question. And I mean, you're obviously very experienced in this specific SME aspects. So let's start. What is an SME? So because when I'm talking with, let's say, 5 representatives from different institutions, from companies, I get 8 answers what an SME is. So what would you say when it comes to your tool, when it comes to your experience, to the specialities? What is an SME for you?
So, like you said, there are many definitions, but maybe for today we take an SME is any company where the CEO or CTO is still handling patent management. That they're just on this, ready for this next step, where they can no longer oversee their portfolio, where it takes up more time than they would like to spend on their IP portfolio. And they really need somebody in the organization to start taking things over and do it more professionally, so that everybody can do that what he does best. CEO has his focus, CTO has his focus, and the IP manager, takes care of the IP portfolio. Because I
Okay.
work for companies, big companies with small portfolios, and very small companies with very large portfolios. So it's
Yeah, exactly. That is exactly my point, that the portfolio size can't tell you that. It is more an organizational question, and compared to a simple counting numbers issue, right?
Mm, mm. Yeah,
So,
well, I always relate it to the size of the portfolio. One patent family, yeah, that's fine. You can handle that. Two, okay. But from five onwards, it gets just too much work, too confusing. You always have these half truths. People think that they have protection for something, and then they keep the patent, and then 10 years later it turns out it wasn't true at all. And so yeah, from let's say five patent families, it's better to it just takes a lot of time.
yeah, got you. So, when we say, okay, that's a special breed, yeah, so that is not per definition a startup, that's not a multinational, it's a company in between, that has to do with the number with the portfolio size. So, what is specifically important from an IP strategy perspective? So, are there specific challenges for such companies? And what is there an IP strategy recommendation in general? Could we say something like that? Does that make
Mm.
sense? But especially, what kind of challenges do they have?
Mm. Well, as you surely remember, during the dinner speech, somebody said they didn't have an IP strategy. And I always like that, because I always say, yes, you do. It's just, whatever happens. And yeah, the point is, if you don't have a strategy, there are forces like, attorneys asking questions, investors are asking questions, and in the end, you will end up somewhere. So it's better, always good to have some sort of strategy, write it down, even if it's very easy. That's the main thing, that you have a focus, that you aim for something. Once you've done that, then the most important thing, I think, is to understand what you really have protected. There's, like I already said, so many half truths that people think they have something protected, they think it has been done. I'm always talking about patents, but the same is for brands. Oh, didn't we have that brand protected, or why not, and etc. So you have to understand what is really protected, so that you can make the right decisions. But as we all know, patents aren't very easy to understand if you don't work with them regularly. So that's really part of what my tool, Patent Cockpit. I sometimes call it a communication tool, because you gather information and you have to communicate to the decision makers. Hey, this is the true situation. What do you want to decide? We have like 2, 3 options, but these are facts. So
Okay.
you have to present the facts for the right decisions.
So your starting point, okay, because obviously, I mean, we can talk for hours about IP strategy and IP challenges and IP management. So that is a very very complex situation, and lots of definitions. And then somebody comes up and say, yeah, you should align your IP strategy with the business strategy and all that kind of things. Okay,
Mm.
but that's not your starting point. So your starting point is that an SME should first of all have a clear picture what is really protected, and what kind of assets are there, which kind of pieces of IP are there, and what is the impact of it. So why do we have them?
Mhm.
Is that your point?
Yes, you always have to start with a strategy. I a bit of left that out, and then you have to understand your current position so that you can make wise investments. IP budgets are sometimes a little bit like a black hole. You throw a lot in and nothing ever comes out again. So you have to keep in mind that you want to somehow make money. You want to invest and not just spend money. So yeah, that's where the let's say 5-year plan of the company comes in. This is where we want to go. So we invest so that in 2, 3 years we are all set up to achieve our goals.
Hmm. Hmm. Okay, so
Especially of course nowadays, where a lot of companies are a bit struggling at the moment, especially in Germany. You want to spend your money wisely so that it comes back again. But the same thing holds for good times. You want to really invest and focus on. In the end, it's like return on invest.
yes, yes, yeah, but it starts basically with the I mean with spendings, and
Mhm.
um, and I have the feeling that many companies are simply surprised by the cost. So there's not really a cost planning or any structure, and
Mhm.
insofar there is not really a budget which is coupled to certain impacts or objectives. Yeah, what I'm hearing is, yeah, we want to protect our inventions. I say, yeah, this is nice, but why? Yeah,
Mhm.
so
Mhm.
to be honest, and when do you call something an invention, and why this invention is really relevant for you and not another one? And
Mhm.
so it starts really by bringing the two things together: the objectives of the company, which hopefully are clear, and then the question: what role plays IP within? What is the expectation about IP? And then we have a budget for that. So we need an amount of money which we are willing to spend, and hopefully it is then an investment in terms of the money comes back when it is spent wisely, in terms of when we understand what this IP should do. And I think
Mhm.
that correlation, that it is simply not enough saying I want to protect inventions, because this is nice, but against whom and why and for what and so on.
Exactly.
Uh, I think that triangle, yeah. So what are the objectives of the company? What is the role of IP? And how much money do we have to spend? And I would say a tool cannot do that. So you have to help, or somebody has to help with that, because typically the company don't have that, right?
Mhm. Yeah. What I always do is I relate the patents to the products. It's actually a lot of work that you really, really know in what products do we have as this specific patent as it is granted realized. Once you know that, then you at least have a basis like, okay, this is what we use. Maybe you look a bit into the future, like next 2-3 years, we will develop this product, and then you can relate newer patents to that maybe. But that's like the basis. And then you can go to the next step where you relate the patents to maybe turnover, maybe profits, so that you can see these are the hard-hitting patents. They really bring us something. And these are the less important patents. In my experience, patent management, IP management is a lot about saving costs, reducing costs, or at least, like you say, keeping them under control with the budget. So standard for me is like a forecast where you say, okay, we have this portfolio based on historical data. The cost, if we do nothing and just keep these patents, the cost will be like this in the next 5 years, let's say. Then you go to the next step that you say, okay, but we have new ideas all the time, so we want to file 2-3 new patents per year maybe. What does then happen to the costs? Yeah, because otherwise you just run into this situation where everybody knows, like after the PCT phase or nationalization, costs just explode, and then yeah, you don't know what to do. So
Yeah,
good
and
for
everybody's surprised what happens here.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So what I got is okay. So I understand something. So you say these IP strategy discussion is not really the starting point. So what you say is, so what I understand is it is transparency. So you come into a situation where there is something, and the ones who are in charge, or at least the ones who have to pay for it, and would like to have a benefit from it, are not really clear what is exactly what we have.
mm,
And that is these unclear situation. That is the starting point of the discussion. So first things first, so to speak, and asking some precise questions. So for what I'm paying here, so what is protected, what not, and to a certain extent, then this is contrary to what I thought what is protected, and then with this transparency, you can go into a strategic and management discussion. Is that
yeah,
correct?
exactly. What I really like in IP management, that when I go into an organization, all the information is there, but it's just distributed in many heads of all the people working there, in many emails, in many Excel files, and once you get all this information together, people really start understanding what's happening, and it's really interesting to see how much knowledge people have in their heads and trying to gather this information for better decision making, better alignment with the strategy.
Okay. Yeah, and that leads us that, okay, so we have distributed information, we have an opaque situation, distributed information, we have a tacit knowledge, which is anywhere in, so it's not documented, it's anywhere in the heads. And here comes the tool into play, I would say, because
Mhm.
as you said, it is an enormous amount of work to bring all that together. But when we invest that money, we should make sure that we can use this information then for an ongoing management purpose. And that leads me to the question, what would you say, what is the because okay, for me that sounds pretty much like administration. Okay, and
Mhm.
so what would you say, what is the difference here, between a pure administrative perspective and a management perspective, and what is the role of your tool then in that?
Mhm. Mhm. Um, I always like to start with the question: do you know what the most used IP management software is?
Excel.
Exactly, MS Office, right? It's yeah. So you have all this information floating around, and gathering that information can be, you can say it's administrative, But you have to understand, right? If you talk to the R&D people, you have to understand the invention and what makes the product better and what are the benefits, etc. When you talk to the patent attorney, you have to understand where we're going, what could be the scope of the patent, etc. So yes, you have to do a lot of this administrative work, understand it, condense it, bring it together, so that you can make better decisions. And that's what we made Patent Cockpit for, that we have like one platform where you can put all information in. We always speak from the three worlds, like the strategy world, the R&D world, where the products are, and the legal world, where the patents or brands or designs live. And you want to go to all three worlds, gather that information. You can put that in our software. And then when you need to make a decision, like, do we want to keep this patent, maybe for a renewal fee or an office action, whatever, all the information is there. You know what products are concerned, you know what turnover is concerned, you know how it aligns with the strategy, you know the backstory, why we filed the patent, why the decisions were made. And then it's really easy to see, okay, this situation still holds, it's comparable, or no, it's the market went a completely different route, they were not interested in that solution, we have to go another way. And then you can make a fact-based decision. And if in 5 years it turns out it wasn't the right decision, then you still understand why you made that decision. Unfortunately, we have no crystal ball integrated yet in our software, but it would be nice. But at least you know why you did things. And
I mean, we have right now we run the second module of the IP management master, and in Strasbourg, and this module is about decision making, and this is exactly what the recommendation is. So the process makes the good decision, and not the outcome, because the future is per definition uncertain, but the process, and with the process, the information which you took into account, and obviously the documentation. So how can I learn which information I would have needed to make it better, to come to a better assessment of the reality which we have there. That has a lot to do with the information, and that leads me to that point. So I'm not really in these different software tools which are out there, but obviously there are different ones. I would say most of them come more from an administration point of view, which is obviously extremely mission critical. So missing a deadline is not an option. But what you say is you have these three areas which you take into account, where the information you bring together. So how would you separate your tool, the pilot, the cockpit, with the it's nice. So it's you are the pilot when you have a cockpit. And
exactly. Yeah.
when you how would you distinguish it a bit so that we can understand it better?
So yes, there are these tools. They all seem to come from the needs that patent attorneys have, patent firms have. So it's about knowing every deadline, every filing date, every very, very important, of course, yes. But our focus is more like on workflows. So maybe I know every quarter we have a meeting and I need to present the progress of our IP portfolio or our costs or whatever, these standardized reporting, standardized decision making, where you maybe have like an IP council, and then you can use the tool to automatically generate the right information, whatever you just need, so that you don't have to do that. Like if you use Excel, which is not a database, of course, then this information is no longer current at one point, and you have to make a file called /new and then /new again /new2, etc. Whereas in our tool, all data is up to date, and you can just run the query and it shows you exactly the data that you wanted to see in the format you wanted to see, so that you can more quickly do the reporting, prepare the meetings or whatever. So we focus really on this information and how to represent it to people that do not work with patterns every day, so that they understand what's going on.
Okay, okay. And so does that means that you, I mean, the question is always what means IP management at all? Yeah. So
Mhm.
when we separate it from the administrative part, and obviously we shouldn't call it management when it's just administration. I don't want to say it's not important. I just say it's something different.
It's an important
So
part. It's you have to do it, otherwise you won't have the right facts. But then the management starts, so to speak.
yeah, okay. And explain me what is then this additional part, this extra on management aspects which the
Mm.
tool supports.
Well, it's like administration are the data, management is displaying the right interpretation of the data, and then making a decision. And our tool is especially in this step of representing the data, interpreting the data, um, so that you can make the right decision based on the data. But if this data is dispersed in 5 emails and on a post-it, then it's much more elaborate to gather all information. So in our case, we just go to the right file. There's all this information about the past, about the future, what we expect about the products, etc. So there are really, you have everything you need to make the right decision. And that's
Okay.
an interpretation of the data. Maybe in
Yeah, I
another
got it.
case, you want another interpretation or a representation, and then you go to that representation for those questions.
Thank you, thank you. Yeah, Maria Boisova-Weinand, she has a very good question. A bit long, so I do not bring it to the screen, but I explain the question. It's a good one. So she says, basically, what you explained so far, you focus pretty much on that the usage of a patent is the protection of a certain aspect of a product. Okay. So that's pretty much what you told us, and that this is a first step of understanding what is this portfolio doing anyhow. But obviously, we have patents for other functions like, blocking, reserve, licensing, so motivation. We know that we have a different kinds of motivations to file. Let's stay with patents for the moment.
Mhm.
And and how can you represent also this more strategic reasonings behind that patent filings, which are not directly correlated with certain, let's say, existing products which generates revenues right now?
Exactly. So in the end, it always comes back to a product, even if it's a virtual one. When you say, okay, you would have two options. We have two patents. We realize one, and the other one is like the alternative. So in our software, we also have like future products or products, alternative products, products from competitors that we block. So you can relate the patents to those things. But as I understand the question of Maria, the strategic part comes like from the future when you look, okay, in 5 years, we want to be there with this budget. Okay. And now you're going to try to cover as much as possible of your own products and your future products and your competitors' products or markets. Um, and that you relate to your own portfolio and where you want to file additional patents, so that you're sure that you cover um, those areas, those products that are relevant for where you want to go.
Okay, got you. Um, for good reasons, Maria said that there is an article on the IP Business Academy blog, and this is the one where we try to differentiate really in detail what's the difference between IP administration and IP management, and we refer here to different papers and try to summarize that. So for the ones who wants to go deeper in that differentiation, it is simply the logic is that when you work with the files, so to speak, so then you have this administrative task. When at the end of the day, this what you said, Bas, when you are in charge to bring the money back, so it's not just covering inventions, for example. It is optimizing the return of innovation. So then you're in the game of IP management, and obviously you need that kind of information. And I can agree that at the end it drills down to a product or a service, and you should explain what kind of product, what kind of service profits from the blocking, from the licensing potential, whatever. So when we agree, and I see that IP management is something which happens not in the IP department. So IP management has something to do with the different departments or competencies in the company. So how can a tool help then to make that cooperation? So overcoming this silo thinking. So, I have the experience really with companies where they have an IP management department, and so then everybody in the company says this has nothing to do with me. IP management. No, this is for this company. So Mr. Meyer is making IP management, and I have nothing to do with it. So how can you and the cockpit helps to overcome that kind of silo thinking?
I think everybody likes to be in his own little bubble and focus on their tasks and maybe on their bonus that they will have by the end of the year. And most of the time, that doesn't go well with what you describe, integrating people. But that's exactly what I think the IP manager does. He talks to different people, shares the information, gathers the information, shares it with other people, recognizes, hey, listen, marketing says this, sales said that. So here, you, developer, you're talking about this solution, but are we going in that way? And sometimes you get the people together, but I think actually that's what the IP management is. It's like an ambassador function almost. You travel around the countries, you gather all information, and then you go back to your king or queen, and they decide, right? So yeah, that's what IP management is. I also like IP council meetings quarterly or whatever is needed, so that these people sit together. That's very fruitful, but very difficult. Are mostly the most busy people that have this information. They are scattered around the world nowadays with Zoom meetings, etc. It becomes more easy, of course. But that's exactly what you try to do: get these people together, or at least the information.
Okay, got you. No, I'm loving your interpretation of what IP management means and what it should be, because we have today innovation management is pretty much established. So many people think they know what innovation is and what innovation management in companies mean. And basically, the innovation manager, if we have one, is exactly doing what you say. The innovation manager should enable innovation, but this person is not innovation. Yeah, it's the same thing with quality management. I mean, quality management is a competency of a company. It's not the Mr. Meyer who is
Hmm.
making quality. That doesn't make any sense.
And
And
checks if everywhere the quality is okay. No, that's a bit no.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So quality is a competency of a company, of an organization, and IP management is exactly the same. And
Hmm.
you need obviously a facilitator. You need somebody who takes care about that, somebody who offers infrastructure for that. And
Yeah.
I think a very important point is efficiency here, because my experience is exactly the same, that you need information from very important persons in this company, and they typically don't see that the first priority is IP or IP management, and
Mm.
for good reasons, because it isn't. But at the end, we need that information, and we have to take care that then, once we have it, we really take care that this information is used in the best possible way. And I understand your tool in that way, that we say that creates efficiency to come up with that kind of decisions, to create transparency around decisions. And I mean, by the way, this is exactly what strategy should do. So when I introduce strategy to the students in the first module, I said strategy is a tool which creates coherence between independent decisions. And this is
Mhm.
exactly what your tool is doing, in my understanding, that it enables an organization to get coherence in independent decisions. That makes totally sense for me.
Yeah, absolutely. It's called cockpit for a reason. You know, you want to see out of the little windows where you're going. You want to see on your dashboard if everything's still functioning well. Do we have enough fuel? So all the KPIs are showing you if you're doing well. And the strategy would be the window where you see, okay, that's where we want to go, or maybe the compass, compass, yeah,
Okay,
showing
okay.
you the direction.
So David Perkins gives us a little a wonderful questions, which I also like very much. Do you recommend creating a scheme of subject matter categories in which SMEs is innovating in terms of to enforce the discipline on which aspects we need patents? And
Mhm.
because it is really so that I mean one one way is to enable IP design, to create intentionally the IP which we need. So that is one way. But there is always these, this serendipity, this one smart idea, and then the question is, what should we do with it? And especially why I like David's question so much is that we see, meanwhile, we have really significant empirical proof that companies underinvest in IP in software areas. So we
Mhm.
have that deep down in the minds that software cannot be patented, and so software develops, app develops. They think what they are doing is per definition, per se, not patentable, and so they even don't come up with invention disclosures. And
Mhm.
also, ICANN. I mean, we had right now a wonderful post from Ziga Fink and Maria about app icon protection, trademark protection. And then Paolo Beconcini from US came up and says, yeah, but it's a very crowded field. I said, yes, of course it's crowded, but that means simply that not everything what comes into your mind can be trademarked as a
Mhm.
logo. So you have to work for it. It's
Mhm.
it's not it's an interplay between the creative guys and the IP guys, which is, in my definition, exactly IP design. So that means not, but that leads to David to say, okay, we want to see IP in this and that fields, or we
Mhm.
want to have at the end of the day a logo which we can trademark, or which fits in our overall brand logic and brand strategy.
Yeah.
So do you recommend that kind? And does the tool support such kind of
Mhm.
thinking?
Oh yeah, very much. Like subject matter is like one way of categorizing your patents or your products or your yeah. But there are other ways. You have like different divisions maybe in a company or different budgets. Our tool was created so that you can group patents very easily in all kinds of groups, and then in the end you say, "Hey, show me this group." So maybe it's a subject matter category A, show me, and then the patent cockpit automatically only looks at those patents, evaluates those patents, and tells you, okay, we have filed 3 last year and only 1 this year. So in this category, we're not doing well. If you go to the other category, it shows, we have already 10 this year. So that's lower.
Okay.
That's
So
perfect.
you're completely flexible what category means, basically.
Exactly. You
So
can define
if
your
the
own categories and
yeah, I get you.
and make like combine categories or exclude
Yeah,
categories.
yeah.
Yeah.
By the way, it's not just for patents, right? So
No,
it's
no.
IP in general.
It's
Yeah,
IP,
yeah.
it's
Well,
the trademarks,
yeah,
yeah. Mm.
because that would lead. So when we have that, when we have this categorization, yeah,
Mhm.
in general, that means we can implement really that kind of thinking in it based on the categories. And then you
Mhm.
mentioned the KPIs, which I also love very much. I just think that KPIs are meaningless when they are meaningless, and most
Mhm.
KPIs are meaningless, but that doesn't mean that KPIs per se are not helpful, but we have to be very careful. And that could be a KPI that is ours, is the software part of our product well protected. So that's a good
Mhm.
KPI, and
Absolutely.
that
You
leads
make
us
a
to the
class software for a certain,
yes,
maybe
yes,
for a group of patents, software. When you take that category, you just see what's happening there. And hopefully the KPIs, the most, what very many companies use is like, we want to file 3 patents per year on a certain range or group. And that's like the easiest one. And then you can simply see that. We have a lot of other KPIs like turnover, like usage of patents, like, of course, coverage of the regions. Um, yeah.
yes, yes. And I assume that you can create your own KPIs however you want them. And that is especially this idea now from this, for example, is the logo for my app, is it protected? To which extent is it protected? And how good
Hmm.
does it fit? So what we
Hmm.
at the end of the day get protected, how good does that fit in our overall brand strategy? I mean, that are the really important messages. And yes, it is tricky to operationalize that. It is tricky to measure it. I agree, but it is a wonderful and extremely fruitful discussion for the company. To this is exactly where we started in that talk, where you said company organizations have quite often no idea, especially the higher you come up in the hierarchy, no idea what is really protected, what
Hmm.
is enforceable, and what costs are associated with that. Yeah, exclusivity, which is based on that IP, and this is exactly
Hmm.
what you want to achieve. When I
Yeah.
understand you right.
Just think of the life of a patent. It's drafted, then the developers know sort of what they want. Basically, they know figure 1. But then you have this claim that's really hard to read. This claim starts to change. Parallel to that, their product starts to change because are they going to implement this idea or not? Or maybe they have it and they improve and they go away. So everything is moving and not so easy to understand. For an patent lawyer, claims are easy to read, but for a average development person, developer, it's really hard, really tough with all these members and parts and portions and yeah. So yeah, you have to bring that together somehow.
Okay,
And
okay,
for
yeah.
yeah.
We have a double moving target. We have a moving strategy also, because strategies are not graved in stone, and on the other hand we have this moving target of competition, because we want to have a certain impact. So the competition is changing and our IP is also changing. So that is really a challenge where you need a smart tool support, obviously.
Yeah.
So
And then
Bas, thank you very much. The time is over for today. Sorry,
Good.
famous words?
No problem.
Some
Thank you.
famous
Thank you
last words?
very
No.
much for having me again. It was a very nice talk.
Yeah, thank you very much. And please, to all of you out there who have questions or comments, write it in the chat. Bas and I will stay on LinkedIn, and we will be available in the chat, and Bas will will answer to your questions, and just make it precise or whatever. The more challenging the questions, the better. So thank you very much. We will be back. This time we will be back tomorrow already. And tomorrow I have Robert Plotkin with us and Bastian Best, and we have a comparison between the European perspective on AI patenting with the perspective from the United States about AI patenting. We will compare that. It will be thrilling, and I'm happy to see you there tomorrow. Thank you very much. Thank you, Bas. Enjoy your Thursday wherever you are on the planet. Bye-bye.